Dig it.
If you're into gardening and buying local, not only does Zamzows know our area, they also buy local bedding plants, flowers, garden seeds, compost, and more. Head to one of the Treasure Valley's 13 area Zamzows locations. We are joined now by the head football coach of the Idaho State University Bengals. His first spring ball is behind him. They had their spring game last weekend. A Bishop Kelly football legend and a big name in Boise, Idaho. Cody Hawkins with us. Coach, welcome back to Idaho Sports Talk, man. How are you today? Beautiful weather in Pocatello?
It's always sunny in Pocatello. Thank you for having me.
I guess I'll just start with here, Coach. I mean, your first spring, kind of what stood out?
What stood out? Gosh. Well, a lot of things stood out. I think the benefit of having a dome stood out just because you definitely get a lot of weather this time of year. In the mountains, Idaho was colder than I remember. Seems like right now, Boise went through the longest stretch since the early 1900s without a day over 60, and we weren't that far off out in eastern Idaho. But man, I was really excited with how quickly the kids bought in, and you always assume that the culture is broken when you go somewhere that's struggled for a while, but we got some fantastic kids here. It's a big reason you want to come back to Idaho. People in this part of the country are just different. They appreciate family values. They're trustworthy. They're all about what we're trying to do, and we got a lot better.
Cody Hawkins, Idaho State football. You said the magic word that I wanted to talk about, and we're going to dive into the spring and X's and O's and talk about some personnel, but culture. I know that's a big deal for you. I know that's a big deal for your father, and it's important to put that together at Idaho State with Idaho State football. So from day one to now, how have you changed the culture in Pocatello?
I don't think I have done anything. I'd probably give more credit to the staff and the leaders on the football team, but I think just trying to, worry about what's the next best thing we can do. And I know I'm a guy that it's not necessarily that I'm overly positive. I'm always optimistic, but I'm also a realist. But I don't want to dwell on the bad things. I understand that the past is only predictive if you don't change your behavior. So we got to change how people are treated around here. So we're trying to nurture relationships both with the administration and the players. I think that's gotten better. And then even the way you practice, the tempo of practice is different. The organization of practice is a little bit tighter than what's been in the past. And I think the kids have seen the care and love that we put into this program, trying to make it better.
Coach Hawkins, do you feel that the biggest challenges are coming maybe off the field or on the field? I'm sure you have them in both, but is there one that maybe is sticking out over the other, getting this program off the ground?
No, you said it. I mean, it's a myriad of everything. I always said when a football program's struggling, it's never because of a lack of players. It's never because of the culture. It's never just because of a lack of administrative support. I think it's always a mix of everything. And we're lucky here that I think, President Satterley and Pauline Theros are two amazing administrators who have they kind of got the job right before COVID hit. And so they really hadn't gotten the spaceship off the ground, but the amount of facility upgrades that have happened since we've been here are absolutely incredible. I think the strength program, getting Jeff Pittman here and having the first full-time football-only strength coach in Idaho State's history is huge. And we've seen major improvements from that. As you guys know, he's an incredible guy and a great coach. And then, I think just the way you coach people, the way you treat guys, it's funny. People say they've had more conversations with me than they've had in multiple years with other head coaches in 3 months that I've been here. But I think you got to be open. You got to communicate with kids and make them understand that the program has way less to do with me than it does those guys taking leadership and ownership of their program and knowing that we're here to facilitate a great experience for them.
Cody Hawkins, Idaho State football, new head coach over in Pocatello. You were born with a football in your hand, but you've never been a head coach. So over these last, 100 days or so, what have you learned? I mean, I know you don't like to necessarily talk about yourself, but, you're all about growth. Growth has to start with the head coach. What have you learned? How have you grown?
Geez, I have learned a lot. I've also learned that everybody wants to ask the head coach questions that he's not qualified to answer. Because time is definitely at a premium. I'm right now, I'm calling the offense as well. So having to balance those duties with the administrative duties of being a head coach is definitely a challenge for me, but it's been fun to grow and learn. And I got to continue to learn to be a better delegator, that staying up later and waking up earlier isn't always the best thing you can do, because you got to take care of your mind, body, and spirit as a head coach. But I mean, even things asking you like, hey coach, do you want to paint the wall gray or orange? We need an answer tomorrow. you're like, gosh, I don't have time to think about these decisions. You just make a decision. They're like, well, you need to sign off on it. So balancing decisions that I don't feel necessarily have to do with winning or losing, but you're still in charge of them. But you realize, I think it's those interactions with people that really, really matter. It's not necessarily the decisions you're making, but it's how you're making those people feel. And I've really tried to get along well with the administration here and foster positive relationships with everybody that's at the program.
Cody Hawkins with us, and I don't know if there is a more impactful assistant coach signing in this state this offseason than you, Cody, getting Jeff Pittman to run your strength and conditioning in Pocatello. You've known Coach Pitt since you were just a kid, man, and seeing what he's done in building physically, mentally, the Boise State student athlete when maybe they didn't have the big flashy facilities like they have now. And for Pitt to get a chance to kind of, go on a ground level again and kind of take a step back a little bit and get maybe back to some grassroots impact stuff in strength and conditioning. I mean, Cody, you got Pitt on your staff. That's got to be just absolutely massive, correct? How'd you pull this off?
It is massive. Well, it has a lot less to do with me and more about the person that Jeff Pittman is. I think he's a guy that, I think every player who meets him for probably the first 3 to 6 months, you're scared out of your mind of him. You think he wants to break you. And then by the end of your career, you're going to take a bullet for Jeff Pittman because he can come off a little rough and gruff. But the reason I love Coach Pitt is not because of his attitude in the weight room, but it's how he treats his kids and his relationship with Gina. And if you guys have ever seen Jeff Pittman around toddlers on the staff, I mean, that guy just absolutely melts. He has a heart of gold, and that shows up in a different way. He's not goo goo gaga with the guys on our team, but I mean, he's the first guy that he's going to show up and he's going to take 15 guys to church, and he's going to go to Costco and spend $1,000 buying snacks and granola bars for our kids when we can't do that.
Wow.
And Jeff Pittman's efforts, not only have we had the best hang clean numbers in years here at Idaho State because of Jeff Pittman, but the guys really feel like he cares and connects with them on his level. He reads people so well. He's been in football for so long that he can sniff out the guys that need to be pushed a certain way. He knows what guys need a little bit more moral support. He can sniff out guys that are full of it, and he does a great job advising the staff on who needs to have what buttons pressed. I think the leaders on the team, he identifies really well with them because he knows what they want, helps steer the team in that direction. And he's made our administration here at Idaho State so much better by really pushing and advocating for the student athletes, and the administration has stepped up and followed suit.
Cody Hawkins, let's talk quarterbacks over at Idaho State. And this one's a little bit different because the last time we had you on, or one of the previous times, you said something that I've never heard before. You talked about we play football indoors. And by golly, we're going to take advantage of that with a passing game, and we're going to pass because it's always 72 degrees indoors. You have Hunter Hayes, you have Keegan Thompson, you have a whole cast of characters. Heck, you might have a 6-man quarterback battle. How did Hunter Hayes come through spring, and what do you see at that position right now?
It might be 7-man if you have any eligibility left. Come on over.
Mike Prater. Yeah, I love it.
Let's go. Come on. I've seen Prater throw a ball. I'm
holding one right now. I'm playing with my Wilson football right now.
Hey, Prater, we'll cook something up. If you can scrum up some eligibility, I'll let you start against San Diego State. We'll get you a nice little friendly. Hey, no, I'm ready. It might be a flat. You could throw up a fade ball, a jump ball, get
Cody.
But no, I think so much of it's less about my personal vision for what Idaho State football should be, but I do think that history always kind of, plays into why and how programs are successful. And when Idaho State has been good, even if you look at the winning record they've had in the 21st century, they have a great passer. Idaho State has never been able to just ground and pound people. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to be a tough, disciplined program. But the fact that in the Big Sky, we're going to play 6 games in a dome next year, let's go. I mean, Some years we're going to play 7 games inside. And, when they were the throwing Idahoans back when Mike Machurik and Dirk Cutter were playing quarterback for the Bengals, if you remember Dirk's game that he played in the national championship year, he threw for 420-something yards. I mean, which back in 1981, you might have well thrown for 800 yards.
Yeah, right.
But, I mean, they threw the ball. And I think when you have an isolated, controlled atmosphere, like you do at Holt Arena, and you got a fan base here that really cares, it can be a tough place to play. So on defense, we need to play a brand of football that's exciting and allows the crowd to be a factor. Winning football games obviously plays into that. And then on offense, just being committed to throwing the tar out of it. And sometimes you might be doing it for effect because you got to be known for something. And I'm sure somebody in the stands is going to get really mad at me, 7 and tight end on 3rd and 1 and just cram it in there. But now we're going to be creative. I'm not saying we're going to try and throw a dig, on 3rd and 1. We still got to run the football in short yardage and goal line situations. But I think creating an identity, especially at this level, it'll help our home field advantage just because we're going to play in a dome and we got to prepare in a dome, which helps the development of our players and of our quarterback. But also it's like you have an identity there that you can be known for something that people around, if you're trying to find recruits, if you can stand on the table and say you throw it more than anybody in the conference, then guys are going to want to be a part of that. And you need players to win football games. So we're trying to do whatever we can to attract players, and we're going to be creative schematically to make sure that we can run the ball when it's important.
Cody Hawkins, head football coach, Idaho State University Bengals, entering his first full season this fall. And, you talked about the fan base there, and they're passionate and they're hungry. I mean, they haven't played in a playoff game since the great Jim Cutter was the coach there, Cody. And I know they've had a tough go, this fan base, and we feel for them. Like, how surprised were you with maybe their attitude and their ability to receive what you're bringing to the program and whatnot there? I mean, it's been a battered fan base, and feels like you and your staff, and then they're ready for it, and you guys are pressing the right buttons. How's that been?
It's been great to see the amount of support that's still present in Pocatello. I think there are a lot of people who have come through the program when they have had some success that are still around here. You look at a guy like, Don Nevis, who played at Boise Junior College and then came over and was a Bengal, and he's still at every single one of our lifts. And he's originally from Hawaii and does a great job, facilitating events and unity for our Polynesian guys. So many guys that are on the football alumni team, many of those members from the 1981 national championship team,
Yep.
They're still around. They grill for our guys. They're real estate agents. They're lawyers. I mean, they do anything and everything to help the Bengals. And I think that's what makes this job appealing. It's being back in the great state of Idaho, but also the community that makes it special. When I was in California, I don't think anybody ever said a single thing to me in public about the Aggies. Now, I love the UC Davis. It's an incredible place. Wonderful weather. Obviously got married there and had 2 kids there. But, just the community support here is different. You can tell that people care about the Bengals, and you see Bengal flags around town. You see Bengal gear on people's backs. And
Good.
We're going to try and give them something to be proud of.
Roster maintenance is such a weird thing anymore. I know over in Colorado, Coach Prime's getting a lot of attention. You've had to play around with this roster a lot through good old-fashioned recruiting, banging on doors, a little bit of transfer portal here. Are you comfortable with the rules of college football, the transfer portal coming and going? Is it the perfect balance, even though you're probably dancing on razor blade edges here? Is it the perfect balance for coaches and student athletes?
No, it's not. I mean, I love the Buffs, and obviously Coach Prime's, he's going to be a fantastic coach in his own right. But I think every coach has to be authentic to themselves and authentic to the program. I mean, I can think if you look at Colorado, they invested so much money into it. And Prime knows he before he was a coach, he has a brand to uphold. So that guy's trying to win tomorrow. And whether you like it tomorrow, it's not about right now to me. It's about doing it the right way. And does that mean everybody's going to be a fit for our program? Absolutely not, because we have standards for performance on and off the field, but we're not going to run people off like that. I mean, if a guy misses multiple lifts and he's disrespectful to student counselors or can't stay academically eligible, you're not going to be part of our program. But it's not because I'm trying to clean house to bring in the best playmakers possible. I want the best people possible, because better people are going to make better Bengals, and that'll make us a better football team. So we're going to have to build this thing from the ground up. We're not one player away. We're a couple players away, and I'm really excited about the Treasure Valley talent that we have coming in to help us out. But we're going to build this thing, and we're going to do it the right way, with culture, with good relationships with people, and quality development from our assistant coaches.
Again, one of the greats here, Bishop Kelly legend, Cody Hawkins. Now he's your head football coach for the Idaho State Bengals. Going to get this thing going in Pocatello. We love having you on, Coach. Appreciate the grind that you're going. And, man, we can't wait for football season to start. And best of luck. We'll talk to you down the road. Appreciate your time today, Coach.
Thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful day. Come by Pocatello anytime.
Absolutely. We should do our show there outside Holt Arena one of these days, Prater.
Or inside.
Like Cody. He's going to pitch it around a little bit, it feels like.
Take advantage of that sucker. They're remodeling it. I see pictures, and it's looking nice in there. And The old Holt Arena, the old mini dome is getting a little bit of love.
Great stuff there with Coach Hawkins. Vandal fans, about 27 minutes away from Jason Eck. He'll join us as well on Football and Beer Week right here on Idaho Sports Talk, getting ready for our big KTIK draft party tomorrow at Sockeye Ale House. Until then, how about Steelheads head coach Everett Sheen? He's going to tell you on what they've worked on since their Game 2 loss on Friday. That's coming up. JP, you got the news. It's Prater in the Ballgame. It's Idaho Sports Talk right here on KTIK Sports Radio, The Ticket.
This is Idaho Sports Talk with Prater in the Ballgame on